Well, this is true. It's a part of our sanctions policy that we have in place because the acts of the Castro government are a threat to international peace. If Americans were to spend money in Cuba, we'd be supporting a tyrannical, communist ruler. Fidel Castro is not our man in Havana the way the previous tyrannical ruler was. Fulgencio Batista was a capitalist tyrannical ruler. He overthrew Cuba's liberal government in 1933, declaring himself the chief of the armed forces in 1934. For the next 6 years, Batista would be appointing just who would rule Cuba. President Dwight D. Eisenhower formally recognized Batista and his government, and would for the remainder of his presidency. There was no embargo on Cuba then. We could travel freely to Cuba then.
It takes time to get there. We're going to eat in my favorite restaurant, El Cafe Cabana.
El Cafe Cabana, well, where's that?
Havana.
Havana, Cuba.
Well, what other Havanas are there?
Around this time, young Fidel Castro began to question this system.
Cuando yo comencé como estudiante en la universidad, tendría unos 18 años. Pienso que mis ideas sobre la justicia eran ideas partiendo de puntos simplemente morales, la idea del bien, del mal. Apenas empecé a realizar los primeros estudios de economía política. Empecé tomando conciencia de los problemas sociales, los fenómenos que se originaban de desempleo, de hambre y de miseria en una economía aparentemente de abundancia. Y empecé, digamos, a poner en duda aquella organización económica de la sociedad.
The United States supported Batista with arms and bombers and fighter planes as his army fought to repress the revolution. But the poor had had enough. And when more and more of them joined Castro to fight against the army, the revolution triumphed. In 1959, Batista fled Cuba, and Castro rode through Havana. We did not impose an embargo on Cuba right away. Instead, President Dwight D. Eisenhower ordered the Central Intelligence Agency to oust Castro from office and to install another Batista-like president. When that didn't work, President John F. Kennedy arranged the Bay of Pigs invasion. When that didn't work, the CIA joined with the Cuban mafia to assassinate Castro. But the United States just couldn't oust the Cuban leader. Why was it so difficult? Sure, the Cuban people supported this leader, but the United States had experience in overthrowing Latin American governments.
What we are watching is a four-phased operation. Phase one has been completed, the seizure of Nicaragua. Next is El Salvador, to be followed by Honduras and Guatemala. It's clear and explicit. I wouldn't call it necessarily a domino theory. I would call it a priority target list, a hit list, if you will, for the ultimate takeover of Central America.
Finally, we settled upon the best method to expel Fidel from power. We call it the embargo. Cubans call it el bloque. United States congressmen, they call it the Cuban Democracy Act. The embargo is used as a tool to deny resources to the authoritarian Cuban government. Such control will help oust Fidel from power. It just hasn't worked yet.
Es mi ojo.
Here I am at a baseball game in Havana. It was strange to see the outfield walls without advertisements. I paid $2 to watch the game. $2 buys you tickets down there. Those are students I traveled with to Cuba. To sit in the stands like we are here doesn't cost anything at all. This was a bad game, we were told by Cubans. It was the bad Havana team. When the good team plays, the seats are packed. This little girl was far more interested in talking to us than watching the game. She wanted to know things.
Peace.
Eso significa así.
She asked us where we were on September 11th and how it made us feel. How did we feel about it today? It made her feel sad. And did we think there would be a war in Afghanistan? She was 8. I thought about her at the briefing. The United States intersection donates books to Cuban children to get children interested in the spirit of inquiry. The books being sent to Cuba are intended to bridge their deficit of information. Books are available to any Cuban citizen free of charge at the United States intersection in Havana. I wondered what would happen to that little girl if she were caught making trips to pick up books at the United States intersection. And was it true that in the United States that people had to pay for university? She asked me how much it cost for a year of school. $100?
Mira.